No. You don't ask me nothing.
$2.25 million.
Get out.
Are we the only community that does fraud?
How come they said this building was closed? Do you guys know where Advanced Mobility is? Advanced Mobility? Yeah, we're looking for it. Never heard of it?
They know we're shining the light on the fraud, and they have no defense.
Would you like to see anybody in the government here held accountable?
Most definitely, because there can definitely be an allocation of funds.
The Minnesota fraud scandal continues to get worse and worse as billions of dollars of fraud has been exposed, and as I showed the world the blatant fraud taking place at daycares and other locations across Minnesota, it became the most viewed video expose on the internet and created instant change within the government as the Fed sent thousands of federal agents to Minnesota, and the HHS froze over $185 million in all payments to childcare. And while politicians like Tim Walz call people like me white supremacists and far-right delusional conspiracy theorists for exposing the fraud, meanwhile, he actually dropped out of running for re-election. The Minnesota fraud scandal has erupted the nation as protests and riots took place, all starting because daycares like Quality Learning Center were exposed. However, the daycares is only a small portion of the fraud taking place in Minnesota. In this video, I will take you into what has continued to allow this fraud to happen and connect all of the dots for you, exposing all of the fraud from strange connections of the business owners and the politicians who have openly admitted to the fraud on live TV. And to dive deep into the fraud, I met back up with the local David, who has been investigating this widespread fraud scandal for years. So here in Minnesota, you have daycare fraud, you have adult daycare fraud, you have healthcare fraud, and you even have more fraud. What's some of the fraud that's also taking place here inside of Minnesota?
Well, what I think might be sort of the heart of the beast here is this transportation fraud. And what I mean by that is in Minnesota, we have something called non-emergency medical transportation, NEMT. My research has shown that there are about 1,020 such companies in Minnesota, and more than 90% of them are Somali owned.
And so right here on the table, what do we have? All this information right here.
So I have a number of companies that are local here in the Twin Cities, and this is just a fraction of the companies that are out there. What I found was that the national average for a non-emergency medical transportation company is 20 vehicles per company. A lot of these companies, their address is an apartment, some are in a house, some are in a convenience store, some of them in a vacant building. There's no signage, there's nobody there.
And so why would there be such a need for all these transportation companies here inside of Minnesota?
So if you think of this transportation as the hub of the wheel, so childcare is a spoke, adult daycare is a spoke, autism is a spoke, the interpreter services, which we can get into, that's another spoke. It all ties back to transportation. Why? Because those meals someone had to deliver those meals. Someone has to deliver the kid to autism, or say they did. So it all revolves around the transportation. And so when you're looking at this, you say, okay, well, let's just be conservative. Let's go on the low side. Let's say there are only 800 Somali-owned non-emergency medical transportation companies in Minnesota. Well, again, the average is 20 vehicles per company. So that's 800 times 20. And the way these NEMT companies are paid is if they bring someone to a doctor's appointment, whatever the case might be, or Costco or wherever they're going, because remember, it's non-emergency medical transportation. Well, we went to Costco because they have to eat or they'll die. So that's considered, right? So it's almost impossible to figure out from the outside what exactly the payments are for each of these trips, but I have a pretty good idea. So when someone provides a transportation to a facility or a location, they're also paid for the time to sit there and wait for the appointment to end and then drive the person back. So they're paid 3 different ways. And the average is going to be $50 per trip. So it's going to the appointment as a trip, coming back trip. So that's $100 per round trip. So if you have 800 companies in Minnesota that are NEMT companies, they all own 20 vehicles, and they're all making 10 trips a day, and it's $50 per trip. So it's 800 times 20 times 10 trips times $50 a trip. Do the math. And the reality is, how many of these trips are being provided? Zero. They don't have to provide any. Why? Because when they are paid by the state of Minnesota, these companies go online and they fill out a form and it just says, okay, how many trips, how many miles? They submit that electronically to the state and boom, they get paid. Nobody bothers to check. They don't call the dentist. Did this kid show up? They don't do anything. As soon as that form is filed with the state of Minnesota, that payment goes out immediately.
And so essentially, these transportation companies are what hold all of the fraud together, because you have the daycare centers working with the transportation companies, the adult daycare centers working with the transportation companies, the healthcare companies working with the transportation companies. So it's just another way to bill and to also make it look like something's happening here inside of Minnesota.
This is the belly of the beast. All of this fraud revolves around these transportation companies. All of it. This touches every part of fraud here in Minnesota.
And today we're going to go confront these people. We confronted them last time. There was no kids in any of the child care centers. And today, what do you expect to see?
I think we're going to see some vehicles because, you know, when I drive around the cities here, I see these Somalis driving. Mostly it's like a Plymouth Caravan or whatever. And there's never, ever been a passenger. And in 7 years, I've never seen a passenger in any of these vehicles. I've followed some of them. They're going to Costco. They're going to Sam's Club. They're going to Walmart. The driver gets out, goes in there, loads up a shopping cart, comes in, puts it in the van, and off they go back to where they live.
And now we're going to go out and see what's happening with these transportation companies.
And here's the other thing. Tim Walz and the Department of Human Service, you threw the people of Minnesota under the bus. Shame on you, and I'm coming for you.
You heard it here first, David.
Your car insurance company hopes that you never find this site, but now you can stick it to them. Listen, your car insurance company might charge you more because of...
All right, let's go. So where's the first location we're going to?
The first location is a company called Safari Transportation, Cedar Avenue South in Minneapolis.
And so what makes Safari Transportation Company an interesting transportation company?
Well,
allegedly fraudulent.
Well, the thing about Safari is that they've been registered since 2015 with the state of Minnesota as operating vehicles. And again, the national average for a non-emergency medical transportation company is 20 vehicles. So if they've got 20 vehicles and they're at 607 Cedar Avenue, I have no idea where there's parking them because there is no parking anywhere near this office.
We've arrived to the transportation company. We're outside, and right there we have a Loving Arms adult daycare. All the windows are completely boarded out right there, and there's supposed to be a transportation company registered right here. It's 617, but it's a liquor store. Right, so the location here is 607 and also 617. These are two transportation companies. We're on a main road right now, and this is 607, and it is not a transportation company. It's actually a money transfer, but it's registered here, 607. This does not look like Safari Transportation. Where is the transportation company?
I don't see any signs denoting that there's any transportation. It's all just looks like money wiring. But if you look at the Secretary of State's office, state of Minnesota, Safari Transportation, 607 Cedar Avenue, and it's been registered here since 2015. That was the original filing.
So let's see if we have the manager. Let's see if we can find FOD. Hello. How are you? We're looking for the transportation company.
Safari Transportation?
Looking for Safari Transportation?
No, there's no Safari Transportation here.
No Safari Transportation?
Safari Transportation, 607 Cedar Avenue.
We're just looking for Safari Transportation.
We don't know.
So, but this is registered for Safari Transportation,
know.
607.
That's the address.
Okay, we don't know.
We're asking where Safari Transportation is.
We don't know.
Did you
Okay,
know
so the
Fuad
business is
Omar?
not here.
Don't record.
Fuad Omar?
Fuad Omar,
We don't know. This, do you see this? What is this?
money transferring.
That's it.
Okay,
Well, this
registered.
is from the state.
This is fraud taking place. This is supposed to say, this is for
Go
Safari
find out.
Transportation.
Go find out.
Yeah, we did find out. This is fraud right here.
Registered here
This is
since
registered.
2015.
2015?
Safari Transportation, state of Minnesota.
2015. Oh, yeah.
Well, but it's registered now. This is current, just off the state of Minnesota website today.
Sir.
This is from today. I just printed this off today. Fuad Omar.
Go check it out.
We're here. This is 607. Where's Safari
607.
Transportation?
Okay, it's not Safari, period.
Okay, so it's a fraudulent
Did you-
business.
Did you see Safari anything here?
Exactly.
Did you see?
Exactly. It's
Did
not
you
here.
see it?
It's a
Did
fraud.
you see, sir?
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to the next
Okay.
address. All right, let's keep moving on. So 607, this is supposed to be Safari Transportation, no transportation company. And now we're going to 617, another transportation company. However, it is actually Cedar Riverside Liquor. Where is the transportation company?
617.
617 right here.
Dreamline Transportation for the state of Minnesota is registered to 617 Cedar Avenue South.
And it's a liquor store. David, they aren't even trying to hide that these
Yeah.
are transportation companies. Where are the vans at?
Should we ask?
Let's go ask.
Hey, we're looking for Dreamline Transportation.
What's that?
Now we're in 617, Dreamline Transportation.
No,
Where is the transportation company?
no, we don't have this.
You ever heard of Safari Transportation?
Safari? I know Safari, that many wiring, 607.
The money wiring.
Yeah.
Okay, that's money wiring.
Yeah,
Safari
We're looking for
Transportation?
Safari
Maybe there.
Transportation.
607.
They said they never heard of it.
I never did. Safari company, the many wiring, they send money there. That's the 607.
So Safari gets the money and then they wire it out.
Yeah, the money.
That man just said that Safari is actually a money wiring company, so therefore they're receiving money and then wiring it somewhere underneath the name of a transportation
So
company.
we said to go here.
Suite A right here. And then you have 617A right here, but this is reliable services, immigration, travel, and tax. I do not see a transportation company anywhere.
Good morning. Hey, we're hoping to find Dreamline Transportation. You ever heard of it?
I'm not heard of it. Ask next door.
He said to ask here,
Oh,
but you would know.
ask next door. This is a mailbox. It's not a phone.
So Dreamline Transportation could be nothing more than a mailbox. 834.
So it could be one of these mailboxes. Well,
Okay, see you later.
607 Safari Transportation doesn't exist. It's actually a money wiring business. 617 Dreamline, inside of there, it's actually a liquor store. And then 617A is a place where there's a bunch of mailboxes and it says reliable ITT services. How you doing, man?
I just want to ask you,
Yes, sir.
why are you sensationalizing the propaganda?
What are we
to-
sensationalizing?
To attack our community. What's your final objective?
We're
Are
not
you-
attacking your
are you-
community by any means.
Are you making
We're
good money
looking-
from this?
We're looking for fraud.
No, I'm
For
not.
instance, can you answer our question? Where's Safari Transportation Company 607?
second.
It's not there.
How
And why
much-
don't you answer-
How much money are
Why don't you
you?
answer the
how much
question?
money
Where's
are you
617 Dreamline Security?
How much money are you making?
I make
off
money
of
off of
this?
YouTube. That's how I make my money.
Exactly. So you're making money off of sensationalizing
That my job
and attacking
is.
the Somali community.
I'm not attacking you guys. We're asking.
I'll tell you the
fraud is
reason why
fraud,
this is
sir.
happening. All right. Let me tell
David,
you the reason why
fraud
you're
is
attacking
fraud,
this.
correct?
Yes.
This has nothing to do with race. This is fraud.
This
Is fraud.
absolutely has to do with us being Muslim.
No, it does not.
All right, and us being from Africa. This is a constitutional argument. If you don't want us here, change the freedom of religion. Say, listen, you don't want Muslims in this country anymore.
We're not saying
No,
that.
no, no, no.
We're not
Because
saying
when,
that.
When I go
Sir,
onto
we're
your
talking
comments,
about fraud. You're talking.
when I go onto your comments,
My comments.
what
aren't
I see
me.
is people that say we do not want Muslims here, kick every single Muslim in Minnesota out of Minnesota.
That's a comment.
You are listen.
That's not what I'm saying.
You're preparing for the Somali community to maybe be taken to concentration camps, just like
How?
the Japanese community. All
How?
right, you're sensationalizing.
No, we're not.
All right,
Sir,
something that
answer
can-
the
listen,
question. Where
that's something
where
that
is
can-
the transportation
something
vehicle
that can
company?
jeopardize
Answer the
the
question.
safety and the protection of
This
the
is
Somali
fraud.
community.
We're talking
If
about
anything
fraud, sir.
happens to the Somali
We're talking about
community, listen,
fraud.
I'm not doing anything.
I
I'm
know,
not physically touching
you're
you.
getting very close.
I'm not physically
You're
touching
very
you.
close.
No, I'm not physically touching you.
This is fraud.
What
We're
you're
talking about
doing,
fraud.
what you're
You're-
doing,
you're
what
defending
doing,
fraud. You're
when I go
defending
into your
fraud.
comments,
You're defending fraud.
people who hate Muslims
Okay,
want
people
us
can-
out of here
People can say
for
what they
being
want. I'm
Muslim,
not censoring
are
anybody.
using your material. Islamophobes use your material. People who hate Islam use your material. Say to us, we don't want you here. Change the constitution. But guess what? Let me tell you something. Guess what?
Say it. Say it. We're asking about
You know,
fraud.
what
We're
you
asking
do,
about fraud.
you hate Muslims.
I'm not saying I hate
You
Muslims.
hate you
We're
know
talking
you
about
hate
fraud.
Muslims.
We're talking
Why
about
are you
fraud.
attacking us?
This
Are we
is
the
fraud.
only community
We're
that
talking-
suffers because of fraud?
We're talking about
Are we
fraud.
the only community that does fraud? Are we the only community that does this?
This is about
All
fraud.
right, but there's what, 300 Somali
This is
providers in
fraud.
all of Minnesota?
There's actually
I'm not-
800.
don't touch me. Is there like-
So
you speak English?
transportation companies.
Your security doesn't even speak English. Listen,
Yeah.
let me tell you
So
something.
see, this isn't a race issue,
Listen,
sir.
let me
This
tell you
is about
something.
fraud.
We have what, 1,000 providers?
Yeah, you guys have a.
Even it's 2,000 providers.
Okay,
You
sir.
want to sacrifice the safety of
Sir,
80,000 people
we're not
because of fucking 2,000 providers?
That's
Okay.
enough.
Are you fucking mad? Are you stupid?
I'm not stupid. You're stupid.
You're
Where's the transportation
sensationalizing.
company?
What about if a mass
Listen.
shooting happens in Minnesota? It will be because of you. It will be because of you. If any Somali gets hurt in Minnesota, it's because of Nick and Shirley. If
This is-
any Somali,
this is about
if
fraud.
one single Somali gets hurt,
This is about fraud,
it's because
sir.
of you. Sensationalizes. You son of a bitch. Sensationalizes.
Wow, you're
Get
very
the fuck
nice.
out of our neighborhood.
Very nice.
Get the fuck out of our
Sir,
neighborhood.
can you tell me where the
Get the
transportation
fuck out
company
of
is?
our neighborhood. We don't want you here. Get the fuck out of here.
Calm down, sir.
Get the fuck out of here.
Sir, this is
You
about
want to
fraud.
sensationalize? You wanted clicks?
You're
You got clicks.
sensationalizing yourself,
You
sir.
wanted clicks?
You're
You got
sensationalizing yourself.
clicks. You wanted clicks? You wanted the YouTube?
Tell me where the
You
transportation
wanted
vehicle
YouTube
is.
clicks? You got YouTube clicks. Now get the fuck out of our...
I forgot to mention, when you get about 10 seconds left, I'll just tip that so you will. So everybody will know that as well. So, Mr. Shirley, you're recognized for your opening statement.
Awesome. I'm here today to speak on behalf of all hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens here inside of the United States. I've helped bring to light widespread fraud that's happening inside our nation, and we the people have had enough of our hard-earned money going towards fraudsters as if it's no big deal. As I speak here, I want to ask everyone a question. How much do we trust when we pay our taxes it's going to benefit our nation? People erupted during the Boston Tea Party over just a few percentages as they believed they were being taxed without representation. Nowadays, we have the representation, but do we trust our representatives? My name is Nick Shirley, and I made a 41-minute video that I posted on platforms like X and YouTube. My video received over 100 million views, and it created instant change within our government. As the federal government launched investigations and departments such as Health and Human Services froze over $185 million in child care funding until businesses can prove they are legitimate businesses. I actually became aware of the fraud that was happening in Minnesota in June of 2025 as I was there for a separate video, and Minnesotans started reaching out to me asking me if I was making a video on the fraud. I said, well, what fraud? And this lady, she was a real estate agent, and she says, well, I'm having a hard time selling my properties because people are curious about these assisted livings that are popping up next door to some of the houses that we're buying or the home health care clinics that are popping up, and we don't know who's next to these houses that we're trying to sell. And I said, well, I'm not going to come and make a video if I don't have any proof. So therefore, I left Minnesota, and I continued to look for fraud in the best way I could. And as I was getting my own information, a man by the name of David reached out to me, and he said, hey, I have been investigating this fraud for years now. I have been driving by these child care centers. I've never seen a single child, and I have received information from the state of Minnesota as to how much money these places are receiving. I said, great, let me come to Minnesota and we'll make this video about potential fraud that was taking place inside of Minnesota. We go to a daycare, and I'm instantly surprised by what we see. We arrived, and it was an industrialized building, and there was 2 daycares registered at that daycare, at that building. And the first thing I noticed is all the windows are blacked out, and there's no footprints in the snow of any children. There's no playgrounds or anything that would make it look like it's a child care. But above me, a sign read, open 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But there was nobody there. The doorbell did not even work. And then we continued to go to other daycares, and we noticed the same pattern. No children, blacked out windows, and one daycare, a learning center, spelled Quality Learning Center instead of Quality Learning Center. They had received $1.9 million, yet with that $1.9 million, they could not even spell Leering right on their sign. Governor Walz has said he's been fighting fraud in Minnesota since 2019 and said the buck stops with him. However, how long would it take for you to notice $1 million leaving your bank account and not knowing where it's going. That's essentially what had been happening in Minnesota for years, as billions of dollars have been misplaced. And meanwhile, while people like Governor Tim Walz call people like me a white supremacist, delusional conspiracy theorist, he actually decided to drop out of re-election because I believe of how deep and extensive this fraud is. Thank you very much. Since my reporting, the HHS department froze over $185 million, and to this day, not a single business has been able to prove proof of legitimacy. How fast would you be proving that you are a legitimate business if you have children to actually feed and to take care of? You'd be sending in that paperwork instantly. I made this video to document the widespread fraud that has been taking place, as I truly believe all fraud is bad. And people like me, my generation, we're sick of seeing tax dollars go towards fraud. We just want to have the same opportunities that our fathers and our grandparents had. And when you see people making millions of dollars by committing fraud, it upsets everybody from all age demographics. And so I hope today we can have a good conversation, and I think we can all agree that fraud is bad and that fraud is fraud. And I wish the best for our country, and I think that's what needs to be happening, is to crack down on all forms of fraud. So thank you for having me, and God bless the USA.
Leader of one of the state's biggest fraud schemes is speaking to Fox News from behind bars. Now, she believes that the scam was no surprise to local Democratic leaders, and she's naming names. She spoke to Alexis McAdams. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Dana. Yeah, so everywhere you look in the state of Minnesota, right, there seems to be another fraud scam. So this one involves Amy Bach. She's a Minnesota woman convicted of fraud for taking taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry kids. But listen to this. Bach tells me the real issue here is the state of Minnesota, which she says kept giving scammers your taxpayer money even after they were flagged as fraudsters.
I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware, but apparently I'm scary, so they couldn't do anything.
So Bach ran this nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. You might have heard of it. It was one of dozens convicted in this $250 million scam. You can see her mugshot there. Prosecutors say this group set up sham restaurants. They pretended they were making these meals. They got paid by the state for those meals, but they just pocketed the cash. Bach, who's looking at 30 years behind bars, tells me the state signed off on those businesses, not her.
It all went through a process. They were all approved. They were all paid by the state, yet all the fingers are being pointed at me.
And it's not just Bach. Whistleblowers told a congressional committee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison there ignored warnings for years as millions of dollars and millions were stolen on their watch. Congress is investigating a long list of massive fraud schemes in the state. It's hard to keep up. Prosecutors say it's led to at least $9 billion in fraud, Dana, and counting. Congress also asking why the Attorney General there would meet with a group of Somali fraudsters, which were under FBI investigation in 2021. The group can be heard in an audio clip given to us by Bach's lawyer, offering to donate to his campaign if he can help them get their funding flowing again. Ellison denies any wrongdoing here. He slammed Bach in a statement to Fox, calling her a liar, a manipulator, adding now she's on a media tour to deflect her guilt onto others.
This is what we call fraud at its best. Welcome back to Fighting for the Truth. As you know, here at Fighting for the Truth, we buy the truth and we sell it not. Remember, you can never ever sell the truth. You got to give it away. And why do we give it away? Because it's the truth. And as you always know, when you know the truth sets you free. Let's get a little bit closer. Listen, I'm excited to bring this show to you today. As you see, we did something totally different today. I wanted to open up showing you some videos of exactly what has been going on in Minnesota. If you have not been watching, apparently you've been on a rock or brick. There's a young man, 23 years of age, who is dropping the hammer. He is exposing the fraud. It has gotten so much attention that the House of Representatives, as it pertains to the Oversight Committee, led by Jim Jordan and some great others, representatives, they've opened up an investigation on not only Tim Walz, now the governor, also on, guess what, the Attorney General, General Ellison. Okay. Open up a statewide investigation. And what you have seen, heard, and watched is that there is massive fraud taking place in Minnesota. Over $9 billion so far has been unwrapped. We found out that it's going to social services programs, Medicaid, okay, all at the expense of taxpayers. Now, I want to dive in today because it is very important that we discuss this, okay? And I'm going to be, as you already heard from the 23-year-old YouTuber Nick Shirley, he stated he wanted to make these videos to shed light on what has been taking place in Minnesota. Got in touch. Well, actually, the gentleman, Mr. Dave, got in touch with him. You heard Mr. Dave said he has been tracking the money. He has been investigating what we know as today Somali people, immigrants. I had to take a pause there. I almost said citizens, but what we found out, and I'm not saying not all are citizens, but there is a great portion that are illegal. And of course, we know ICE is beginning to round them up because they brought attention to themselves. They have been defrauding the government for over 9 years or more. We would even say it goes back further than that. What we do know, documented claims that led to investigations as of last year, 2025, that leads us into 2018, again, with a total amount so far, and it continues to climb. $9 billion have been stolen from the taxpayers of Minnesota. Now, you may ask, who are the people behind this? Somalians. And why is Somalians moving to Minnesota? Well, let's first dive into that. We'll give you a little history lesson. Minnesota in the nation, in the entire nation, has the most Somalis within their state. It is a hub, let's call it like it is. It is a hub for the Somalian culture. And one may say, well, they already established their traditions and their culture right there in Minnesota. I understand that. That's what the whole country was built on, immigration, which led them to New York ultimately. Speaking of our migrants, of the descendants of Italian, Irish, Spanish, and all those Jamaicans. And of course, there's a hub and there is an established culture in New York, which is why those different cultures and immigrants of those countries I mentioned typically start out when they come to the U.S. They start out in New York, which makes a lot of sense. But when you look at Minnesota, why is it so heavily populated by Somalians? This is part of that reason. Not only are they established, but they're also established in criminal activity when it comes to fraud. And we have uncovered that. People like Nick Shirley and now people like myself and many others are going to shed light, which is why I took time to show you those videos if you had not watched it. It bring you into the life of who Nick Shirley is. But going back to the Somalians, okay, there are over, I will say, I don't know, 80% of Minnesota right there in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, probably about an 80% population gap there where you see Somalians. Those are the areas that they really seek to go and live into. And now we're finding out why they have chosen these particular cities, aka the Twin Cities. They're already established their fraudulent activities. And as you saw when they went to the first location that they filed with the Secretary of State's office dealing with transportation, we find out it's not even a transportation service. We find out by watching Nick and Dave, it is actually a money wire and transfer company, which, in my opinion, is a money laundering business that was ultimately signed off by the Secretary of State, governor, which has led to a massive investigation. And if you listen to Walls at any point, you heard him talk about how this is a witch hunt, and he tried to push the blame back on President Trump, called Nick Shirley a young man who pretty much had no idea what he was doing, a vigilante, not even wanting to say the word vigilante, not even self-proclaimed. Those are two words come to my mind. But at the end of the day, this gentleman is an independent journalist, a YouTuber I spoke about. Took his cell phone, took documents that Mr. Dave has been compiling for years, and went out and did something that is unheard of. But he also did something that was dangerous, as you can see in just one of the videos that we've shown you. There's plenty more to watch. He has been verbally attacked, sometimes almost physically attacked. Of course, he has gotten security at this point, much needed, because he's going into the belly of the beast, some very dangerous type work. Not everybody are built for this type of work. But who are Somalians? Somalia is, obviously, if you're not aware of it, located on the continent of Africa, in the easternmost part of that country, okay? Somalia is rated maybe third in the world as being one of the poorest countries, okay? It is heavily dominated by the Muslim religion. They believe, they subscribe, okay, to Sharia law. And not only have they done that, they have said in that particular country of Somalia that no other religion is welcome. Now, they portray to believe and say that you can bring in other customs and religions, but the fact of the true matter is you better not bring your Jewish or your Christian values to that particular country. You will find yourself dead upon arrival. But they have taken over. Of course, Al-Shabaab, one of the terrorist organizations, have really dived into that country really heavily, okay? And not only do they see poverty through their political and economic schemes, but they have a huge issue with pirates. We know that. Trying to take over these ships, have done it for years and years. But the fact of the matter is the fraud is exposed, the curtains are pulled back, and there's no more hiding. There are tons and tons of transportation services that you will hear from Nick and Dave speak about as they venture to these places. None of them, there's only a few that Nick went to that was actually a transportation service. However, they were not transporting people. They have defrauded the government so much by using the Medicaid scheme. What are they doing? The Medicaid scheme, they're using that to build insurance companies to allegedly take elderly, people who have autism, disabilities, people who have maybe disabilities in general that leads them not to be able to drive, to make common decisions and all these things. These Somalians have taken advantage of this system, and they're saying that they're there to help. But when they dive into it, there's no people on the transportation services, all these vans that they're riding in that they defraud the government to buy. When they go into these daycares, which is the number one fraud that has taken place, we find out that there are not even any kids at the daycare. Millions of dollars. If you continue to watch that YouTube episode with Nick Shirley, you'll see they go to different businesses. And every time they go to these alleged daycares, they total over $1 million in state funding that they received with no checks and balances, and finding out that these actual businesses are hiding under another type of business of an LLC to ultimately funnel money into their system to then take it and move it and ship it back to their country. And why do you think they're doing this? I just told you they're one of the world's poorest countries. They have declined economically, and there's no signs of regaining. So you see a lot of refugees that have entered this country, and I'm going to say it here on record. Thank God that President Trump has put a stop to Somalians entering this country at this point, and many other countries who are wreaking havoc on Americans. They're taking money from our pockets as we try to help them. And there's nothing wrong with helping, but when you come to a country with a plan in mind before you get here, and that is to perform corruption, to defraud, to manipulate, we have a problem with that. Every American should have a problem with that. That's why we're pushing back. That's what this show is about today. We're pushing back because we can no longer sustain it. We can no longer take it. And so, yes, President Trump has put them on the no ban list, has put them on the ban list to not be able to enter this country under a Somalian visa. And it's only right until we can get to the bottom of it, figure out where all the fraud's at, figure out why this is taking place, and then maybe at some point put them back on to a situation where some may enter the country. But they have overran Minneapolis, overran St. Paul, again, the two twin cities. And we find when you look at Somalia, again, poor country. Nothing there is booming. Economy is lacking. Their GDP is very low. Okay. Again, with no signs of increasing. They're sending Somalians to the state of Minnesota because they want to continue their fraud. The more they have, the more money they're going to get, and the more frauding is taking place. That's the reason why they're coming at a rapid pace. Let's call it like it is. That is the reason why they're coming to America in general. Family members and friends are telling them, you can come here, you can open a business, and you can get free money from the government and do nothing to earn it. And then on top of that, you can turn around, change the business, and actually not do exactly what you said you were going to do on paper. That's what they have done. And it is time. It has been exposed. So I commend Nick Shirley on this. It is a beautiful thing. We heard the Attorney General, Pam Bundy. We heard, okay, what is going to take place with all the folks involved. Kristi Noem, Homeland Secretary, they're rounding them up. DOJ is investigating, okay? And we are doing the business that needs to be done, all because of an American YouTuber at the age of 23, Nick Shirley, exposed this. And now everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, which all it takes is a small fire to ignite a massive fire. And that is what we're seeing right now. It is horrible, the things that the taxpayers there are dealing with right now. But $9 billion in tax funding gone to waste. It is a large scale that is taking place. Again, under the social economics 101, state of Minnesota is not living up to it. The money there has been dismantled. That economy in Minnesota has been ruined, all because they have put people in the office like Ilhan Omar. Okay, you better believe everything she's doing is for the Muslim, and it's also for her people of Somalia to advance. And then you have the mayor then in Minneapolis, the little skinny dude, Mayor Fry, who is all embedded in this. And then you lead it all the way up to the top, Tim Walz, which thank God he did not become the vice president. This would have never been exposed. We're so thankful that Kamala and Tim did not take the White House. And that's what we're doing in 2026. We are exposing, we are shedding light where the light needs to be shed. Okay? Again, this fraud has been going on well past 2018, but it is documented right there that this is when they really went back and watched and took a read on these fraudulent tax papers. And we're finding it And it's all built into, again, the social services and the health. Why do you think they want those? That is the easiest way to defraud the government when it comes to trying to open a business, because you're saying you want to be there to help the government out locally, right? Or even statewide, because you're trying to provide a service that is most needed when you have a lot of elderly people who cannot get around, can't get their meals, can't get their medicines and things like these. These Somalians have said, we're going to open up transportation services to get these people from point A to point B. But what we found out is it has not happened. It has not taken place. Go watch Nick's full video. You'll see plenty of transportation services that he went to with tons of minivans with magnetic signs of alleged transportation service sitting in the snow covered. No foot tracks that led to anybody getting into the vehicle and driving it away. No tire mark, which tells us we have documented evidence that this is a scheme, and it is the worst we've seen thus far, which much more to come. Now, the last video I showed you, you saw that Amy Bach, I believe her name is, who leads Feeding Our Future, is now behind bars. Over 75 people have been indicted on this particular matter of defraud. And she's probably one of several, not many, but one of several un-Somalian related. She's not Somali. Obviously, you see she's white. But you look at that, and she's involved in this scheme, this fraudulent activity, which is estimated to have over $250 million, she has defrauded over the years in Feeding Our Future. And you heard her say she's not responsible. The government is responsible. See, it all points back to someone else. She's saying the government is responsible for actually signing off on the fraudulent information that she gave to ultimately gain a business. They're at fault. Yes, they have some fault in it, but the main person at fault is you, Amy. You're the one that went in and created this business, this LLC, okay? And then you did it under the nose of all the taxpayers who's paid into this, and maybe you had paid some money into it, and you took innocent people money. You did it. Now she's behind bars facing, I believe, up to life in prison for all the money, and they have requested $5 million of that money back, and who knows if she even have any of the money left to prove. You know, at the end of the day, this is ridiculous. It is unheard of, but we're exposing it with the help of people, again, like Nick and Dave, and now people like myself, many others. We're going to jump on this bandwagon. We're going to help support, promote, push out so that people can see what is going on. And you better believe if it's happening in Minnesota, it's happening in other states. Okay? At this point, as of today, over 18 billion has been tracked and traced. And that's where it lies at right now. And there's much more when you look at Medicaid funds. Again, all these are built under the social services program. Probably, again, one of the easiest ways to get money from the government, saying you're going to open up a legit business that's going to help who? People, the citizens, which is why the government's in business in the first place. It's shameful. Now, we need to understand that where there's one, there's two, and where there's two, there is three. Much more money that is being exposed, and they're not done. I feel like it's just begun. And if you watch some of these committees speak on the House Oversight Committee as it pertains to the Congress, when they're interviewing or questioning these subjects, we're going to call them subjects, defendants. I'm not talking about people like Nick Shirley, but the defendants who they're going to be bringing them in. You better believe the subpoenas are going out. There's questions that's got to be answered. Tim's going to be sitting in that seat. He's going to be sitting in the hot seat, answering these questions. Why did he not look into the particular matters before he signed off? Of course, he's going to point the blame at the Attorney General. He's going to push the blame in other places on Mr. Ellison. Mr. Ellison is going to push the blame on the Deputy Attorney General. All these things, or the Assistant Attorney General, whatever you want to call them, they're going to point the blame all the way down to the Secretary of Treasury. They're going to just keep pointing the blame because at the end of the day, nobody wants to take responsibility of what just took place. But facts are facts, and we cannot look past it. It is here. We must speak on it. We must talk about it. And at the end of the day, we're going to make sure all 78 people that are indicted get the justice that they deserve, get the penalties that they deserve. So far, 50 of them have already pleaded guilty. Okay? There's 28 more of you souls that need to do the same because there's no rest. There's no room for you to say he did it, she did it. The buck stops where the buck stops, and that's at each person who played a role in this. There's no other way around it. Okay? Now, there has been individuals who have gained over $26 million back in 2020 due to these estimated schemes that have been committed upon the Minnesotans. It is very sad. And again, justice will be served. But at the heart of what we look at, the heart of what we do, we have to say that it was only done, it was only given because Tim Walz, Attorney Ellison, they wanted to not only continue to have these Somalians voting for them, but they wanted to stay in power. So they incentivized these people through monetary gain, but ultimately it was not their money. And on top of that, they did nothing to deserve it, which led to fraud in the end. So I would say it's a got you moment. They've been duped. And it's time now that everybody who's involved get what they deserve. And so that's what we're doing. Widespread fraud. We are tackling it because it has to be uncovered. And there's much more that's going to be uncovered. We're going to keep uncovering until all the covering is done. I don't care who you are. Don't care what you've done. If you're not being a law-abiding citizen, if you're not paying your taxes, if you're not being productive, if you're not helping neighbors, if you're not trying to stay within your boundaries, if you're not raising your family to be productive and law-abiding citizens, you have failed as an American citizen. And I'm here to tell you that on Fighting for the Truth, because that is what we do. We fight for the truth, and we're going to let the truth fall where it may fall. But the truth is the truth. I keep telling you, you cannot buy the truth. You can buy the truth, but you cannot sell it. Make sure I get it right, because I don't want anybody to be misconstrued about what I'm saying. Okay? And so when we look at this, what we find out is just this. It shows us what Nick Shirley has done is that anyone can do this. All you need is a cell phone, a little bit of guts or a lot of guts, and you need to have the facts on your side. You don't need a law enforcement degree or a criminal justice degree, and you don't need a law enforcement certificate. You don't even need a lawyer degree. You just got to be willing to go out, speak the truth, tell the truth, and again, let the chips fall where they may. You can't be afraid, but if you are a coward and if you're not able to take what's coming, because there is something coming, I tell you to sit back and watch from a distance. Do not get in the way of this type of work. As you see, what Nick Shirley's doing is not popular, neither is it fun. Okay, well, maybe fun to some, but it's a very dangerous type of work. But this young man is willing to take it on, and we appreciate him for shedding the light, because now we're shedding more light, and we are taking this small fire, okay, that was originally a campfire, and we're turning it into a bonfire. We are doing it because it has to be done. That's the bottom line. Now, what we have to also say, you need some tenacity too. Like I cannot leave that out. You need tenacity to do what Nick Shirley's doing. Okay? I commend him. Keep it coming. It's not easy, but imagine what results are coming as a result of his efforts. And yes, he's going to make money off it. He is going to continue to increase his followers and subscribers, and I commend him for it. And it's only right that he's rewarded through monetary value and also through his subscriptions on YouTube, whether those are followers, subscribers, or people who just want to know more about this young man. He has set himself up for a huge career in independent journalism. And it's a plus. I welcome it. I love it. The motto in America is that if you work hard, you get a chance to play hard. And I believe Nick is working hard. So, Nick, you heard it from me. It's time for you to take a break and play hard a little bit. Enjoy what you have done, what you have exposed, what you have brought to light. Okay? To the fact that Tim Walz, this is what I love the most, is not going to seek re-election. And you heard Nick talk about it at his House Committee testimony hearing. He believes it's a result of his efforts. And I also believe it is a result of his efforts. He has done a beautiful job. Now Tim is hiding in the open, okay, not able to place a cover over him to hide his nakedness. It is out in the open. It's exposed, and there's nothing you can do about it. All you can do now, Tim, is comply. Now, if that doesn't prove a level of guilt, I don't know what else it does. But I do want, and I hope that Ilhan Omar and her husband, who have now gained over $30 million, can you believe that? And she has not been sitting in the house for that long. Now, no politician should be making that type of money, whether you're in there for 20 years. But imagine less than 10 years, this woman has made over $30 million, allegedly her husband. Of course, the money is funneling back to one another. But we know that at the end of the day, Ilhan is a Somalian, and we know what they're about. They're about fraud. So would you say she's tied, embedded in fraud? I would say so too. Look forward to the day where she's also going to be standing or sitting before the House Committee in front of Jim, Representative Jordan, and others to talk about the fraud that she has also committed, the bribery she has taken, the handouts she has taken, and the special interest groups that have given her tons of money to push legislation on their behalf. It's going to come to light. Trust me, mark my words, we are going to see it. So I say, Nick, keep it coming. Maybe we can stop Ilhan from running again. And you must know this. Where her district is, that's in the heart of Minneapolis, okay? And so what you think's happening there, she's getting votes on top of votes, which is why she's pushing for it. She don't care if every illegal Somalian comes to this country because she needs their vote. Okay? And I must go back to what I was saying earlier. Not only is Somalia located in the easternmost part of Africa, we know this to be true, that most of them allegedly running from their country due to civil war, and they're hiding under the disguise of refugees seeking asylum. But the bad news is you won't be able to continue to do that right now. And we love it. I'm all for people coming. You know that. And I just got to keep reiterating because we know what type of world and environment we live in. I am all for migrants coming into this country. Let's slow down and say it properly. But I am not for migrants coming into this country illegally and then taking all the resources from the American people. And as we see, it is happening at a rapid pace. So somebody's got to speak out about it. Now, Nick's not done uncovering fraud. He is heading, and he's already begun his quest into, can't say the great state, the left coast, as we better know it as, the home of the COVID scandals. Going to call it the home of the COVID scandals. And you know what it is. The state of California. He's already diving into Gavin Newsom's fraudulent activities, and we have to do it now before he continues to push his efforts to run for president. And we know the Democrats are going to try to put him up. But if we continue to expose what he's got going on, we can shut it all down. We've shut Tim down. Now let's continue to push forward. A 23-year-old has been able to do this. And I have great faith that Nick's going to be able to expose, uncover, with the help of many others. It's going to take a lot of us to expose what Gavin Newsom has done and is still doing. As we know, that state is in a demise. It is at a rapid failure. It is economically falling and it's continued to fall. People are pushing themselves away from California. Businesses are pushing themselves away. Elon left years ago. Very smart man. And other companies are leaving California due to the economic stronghold that this man, Gavin Newsom, and his administration has placed upon them. The same man that ate at the French Laundry during COVID as he locked down his state and had a program in place for people to, what we call, snitch on your neighbors, families, and friends if they're out and about. Not only are they out and about, they're wearing masks and they're doing all these extracurricular activities and hobbies that they had no business doing under the brainchild of the government of California, we should say. Okay? To snitch and report. Then he weaponized the police department to go out and find these people, lock them up, and arrest them. We saw what Nancy Pelosi did in San Francisco as she went and got her hair done and was caught doing that during the midst of a statewide, of course we know nationwide, but I'm going to focus on statewide and California shutdown. This is the man Gavin Newsom is, if you're not familiar. And so it's going to get even better. I'm looking forward to that day when he's exposed all the way through when it comes to fraud. Okay? This show is strictly about the fraud that has taken place in Minnesota. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that you have gained something from this particular episode that you didn't know. Maybe you didn't know who Nick Shirley was. Maybe you didn't know all the work that he's been doing. Maybe you heard his name and could not put a face with a name. Or maybe you didn't have the time to dive into the work that he's doing. That's why I wanted to show you some of the clips. And it's very important that we see it. And as we wrap up, I always say to you, this is the time to stand up and fight. This is the time to make sure that we are exposing the lies, that we are uncovering the truth, and we are pushing out information that has to be pushed out. And that's exactly what we're doing here on Fighting for the Truth. We're doing all those things I just named to you. We are continuing to do it. Okay? So as we wrap up, I want to say, God, please continue to bless this great nation. Continue to bless our president. Please, Lord, continue to bless our military. And of course, we have to continue to pray and ask for blessings for the men and women that are serving in blue. It is very important that we do that. It is very important that we do that. And why do we want to do that? Because these are great people and they're helping our country move forward. People like Nick Shirley, we got to keep him in prayer. He's doing a task that is very dangerous. People are beginning to understand exactly what his mission is. And God knows what the Somalians are up to. And God knows what people that are helping out the government are up to who are not on the right side. They're looking to harm this young man, take him out. But I'm going to stand with him. And many others are going to stand with them because that is what we have to do. So we're uncovering the fraud and we're making sure that every person knows that your taxpayers' money is going to be used for the right purposes. And if it's not, we're going to pull out our cell phones. We're going to go to the Secretary of State's office. We're going to get these documents and we're going to go live on YouTube and all these other platforms. And we're going to spread the truth out so that people know. And hopefully we can cripple these states who are so heavily involved in crime to the point that they want to stop their madness and stop what they're doing. Okay? The fraud is real in Minnesota. Nick Shirley, exposing it all. That's the title of today's show. Okay? And you already know what I'm about to say. Let me get into the microphone here. Would you please do me a favor? Would you please do me a favor? Could you please do me a favor? Would you please do me a favor? Buy the truth and sell it not. Remember, you cannot sell the truth. You got to give it away. Why do we give the truth away? Because it's the truth. And when you know the truth will always set you free. It has no other choice. You have to be set free when you have the truth. So until we meet again, until we do it again, I will say God bless you. God bless our United States. And stay safe. We'll see you again.